I was hoping to do in this meeting was to just do some procedural and organizational things and provide people with an overview of the lay of the land. And I'm up here. Why don't we go around the room and introduce each other, even though you probably already have, but Jeannie?
I'm Jeannie Brooks. I'm a new member of the trust.
And I'm Kathy Robertson, and I am a member of the trust.
I'm Brian Gallagher, new member also.
Liaison to the trust.
Yes.
Joe Lady, town manager.
Mike Antonellis, Director of Land Use and Inspectional Services.
And Gina?
I am Gina Gerasi, a new member of the trust as well.
Is there anyone else on this call that called in remotely, or is it just Gina? Oh, no, okay. Okay. So the first thing on the agenda, I hope everyone had a chance to read it. I sent it out to folks and it was also posted online. Just as a procedural thing, we have to post all meetings 48 hours in advance. And so the agenda, so if you look on the Town of Upton website, you'll find the agendas, you'll find the meeting time, you'll find the remote links, you'll find everything. So we did post the agenda. I sent it out to everyone in advance and they approved it. But basically I've been working without portfolio, pretending to be the dictator here. I have not been elected chair. I was sort of the last person standing after the old committee disbanded. I was in it for all of one meeting and then the former chair died. And the two other members stepped off. So what we need to do is we need to have a chairman. We should have a treasurer, we need to have a treasurer, and we need to have a clerk. And those are the three positions, I believe. And I'm staring at you, Joe, just to confirm that those are the three positions we need.
And vice chair, if you wanted.
Oh, and vice chair. So I would like to throw myself in the mix as chair, if that's appropriate.
I think it's very appropriate.
So that needs a
You
second.
have the experience, Kathy, of that one meeting.
Yeah, woo. So do I hear a motion?
I motion that Kathy is the chair of this Upton Affordable Housing Trust Committee.
I'll second that.
I'll third it.
Gina seconds, okay,
It's unanimous.
okay. And so roll call, because this is hybrid. Jeannie? Aye. Brian?
Aye.
Maureen?
Yeah.
Stop yapping, aye, okay, and
So the reason why I was sidebarring with Maureen was I'm looking at the trust bylaw and
Okay.
one of the members of the Board of Selectmen, at least one of the trustees shall be a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that she was aware.
I'm a member.
that's why I've included in all the emails. That's why she's here.
You can come and sit in the big boy chairs if you like. You will be later anyway, so.
Yeah, because I actually read those too. I wasn't sure if they automatically were supposed to be chair, because I never would have, so anyways, okay. So Gina, did you vote?
Aye.
Okay,
Yes.
unanimous. Okay. The next appointment would be vice chair, and vice chair would be basically just to do what I'm doing if I am not here to do it.
I would be happy to do that.
So,
I just certainly won't be clerk.
hmm,
I would be happy to do that if that's appropriate.
okay.
If that's appropriate.
Do I hear a nomination for Jeannie Brooks?
I nominate Jeannie Brooks to be the vice chair.
I'll second that.
Okay. And vote, Jeannie?
Aye.
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 I have.
Gina?
Aye.
The chair goes aye. Okay. Treasurer. I'd like to nominate Brian Gallagher.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Jeannie?
Aye.
Brian? Maureen? And Gina?
Aye.
And the chair goes, it passes unanimously. And then the perennial favorite, clerk. Clerk is really, really easy. All you have to do is, because these meetings are taped, so all you really have to do is, like we just did, chair, people elected chair, you just do procedure, Mike Antonellis presents on affordable housing trusts. You just do basics. You don't have to get into heavy details. In fact, it's good to keep them brief. A lot of town boards have them under one page. I can send folks copies if you want to defer that to the next meeting, but it'd be really, really good to have a chair. To have a clerk. So do folks want to just defer to the next meeting?
Yeah, let's defer. I'll think about it. I can't commit right now, but I'll think about it.
I will send you a copy of some planning board minutes that Paul Carey, who I think is a master, and he's a lawyer, so he knows.
My husband does it for one of the committees on, I forget which one. And he said it's just a page, that's it. You don't have to go into any details,
Yeah.
just the way Kathy described it. It's really quite simple.
Yeah. But we will discuss that at the next meeting. So the next item on the agenda is a financial update. And I don't really have anything. I know that Mike and Joe have been looking into what our situation is. I was under the impression, and I think I relayed this to all you people, that when I was trying to get folks to serve on this board, that there was money. The Affordable Housing Trust gets funded through the Community Preservation Act. So a certain amount, you'll see a line item on your tax bill every year, and a certain part of that goes to the CPC, Community Preservation Committee. And I do believe, and I'm staring at Joe and Mike to correct me, that 10% automatically goes to recreation and open space preservation, 10% is for historic preservation, and 10% is for affordable housing. And the CPC, Upton voted in a CPC about 30 years ago. So we've had and the state matches or provides a match to what the municipality puts into it, correct? And so we've had about 30 years of collecting money. And I was under the impression that none of it was spent until Joe sent me an email regarding an oil leak at a house that we own on 84 Hartford Ave East. Or is it East? Hartford Ave North.
48.
48 Hartford Avenue North. And so that meant, and then I started looking back into the minutes, there's not that much in the archives. There's very little financial information. I couldn't find any budgets. This was all in previous administration. This is just stuff, this has been ages of neglect, I think, from the committee. So this is not anybody's, this is just, we have some work to do catching up. But so I think it was 2015, we bought a house at auction. And it has sat there ever since. A couple years ago, it's my understanding that there was an RFP put out to find a developer for that property. And it's my understanding that that was right before the pandemic. And I do not know, there was a respondee, Habitat for Humanity. I do not know if they were accepted by the Board of Selectmen. I don't know who would have issued the RFP. I haven't been able to get a copy of the RFP. So I don't know anything about this process, except that we still own a house. And it had a leaky fuel tank, which I assume has been pulled, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. The fire department responded and dealt with it. But the thing is, we are paying for insurance. We're paying carrying costs. We're also going to be paying for the tank pull, I assume.
I paid for it.
Oh, the selectmen paper? Okay.
Yeah, the town manager. It was only $400.
Oh, that it?
I'm like, yeah.
Oh, cool. You want to pick up our insurance too? No, but, so we're paying around a little south of $3,000 a year in insurance, I believe, on a house that is just sort of sitting there getting in worse and worse condition. So And it's my understanding, that's a later item in the agenda. I still have vacation brain, so I'm sorry if I'm not being very linear. But, it's my understanding that in about 2015, the town, there was a warrant item at town meeting to send $200,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust so that out of the CPC budget. There's a process that you have to follow, and if I'm getting too much in the weeds, let me know. We cannot pull money from the Community Preservation Committee. It has to go through a town meeting process. So, you can, if we have a need for it, we have to go to the CPC, explain what our need is, and the CPC, and then it goes on the warrant for whatever town meeting we're there, and we get the money, and life is good. So I believe that there was a $200,000 transfer. I was told by Al Holman before he died that that was just to allow us to be nimble and to make decisions, so we didn't have to go through every time we wanted to do something. Al never mentioned that we owned a house. So it's my understanding that the 200,000 probably went to the purchase price of that house. And that was about $154,000 or something at auction. I still haven't been able to find the house. I look for it all the time. I drive by there. I have not been able to find it. And then we've been paying insurance from it. The last budget that I got, the last financial statement I got, because both Joe and Mike have been working on, and the treasurer Jessica's been working on it as well. The last tax ledger I got was 2022. We had a deficit of about 200,000. I mean, about 2,000 in our budget 20. And this is going to be your job, Brian. And you're already voted in, so you can't resign yet. Well, you can, but you won't. So that's a financial issue. I do not know how much is left in the CPC. I haven't been able to find out. I assume we have a substantial amount left.
In the CPC, you said 10% reserve. Well, I'm not sure that's the right word.
Yeah.
10%, I'm not sure if it's
Yeah.
deal or reserved. It's 30 years. So is it reserved and we have those funds, just not maybe transferred?
If we haven't spent them, and based on I don't think we have.
And that's where, we'll have to just have Kenny run and basically reconciling. So since 2003, when CPA was first enacted, Upton was one of the first towns that adopted it.
It's the AIM's Community Preservation Act.
Basically, by default, what towns typically do is in the three buckets, just identify the 10%. That's the minimum. That's absolutely has to be contributed. Pushes that aside and goes to the special accounts that then, Affordable Housing Trust can authorize expenditure out of that. Anything above and beyond the 10%, usually you're going to town meeting, getting CPC funds for, say, acquiring property and going through that process of town meeting. That's the article you're referring to. Al Holman identified that you probably got access to a larger amount because the annual 10% that you're getting, and the match is not a 1-to-1. Right now it's pretty much for every dollar you can get 50 cents from the state, and sometimes in the past it's been as low as a quarter. Now they're sort of doing a little bit better, but it's still essentially half a dollar per dollar. So that's money that then just builds up. But you then sent on that expense that basically said there was an annual insurance bill that's being paid for that property. So I need to do some examination to find out, okay, what was the authorization? What was that? What was the policy? Because also that seemed a little high for a property that if it burned, all we need is liability.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So there's some stuff that, us coming into this going, okay, we need to figure out where things are as well. I'm like going through Blythe's server files to see if I can find anything on the Affordable Housing Trust, which I don't. So I don't know, did Al have a thumb drive with things, or because I don't see a lot of stuff on our server.
Yeah, I didn't see much on the server at all. And, the ledgers that Jessica had, you got me up to fiscal year 2022, I think. And there were a couple years it was 5,000. And that's 5 times more than I pay for my house, which has a higher value and which is occupied. You know, which, you know, so it just, I don't
Who's
understand.
the insurer?
Well, it's done through it's done through the town. It's a broker
But
that,
it's not, so it's not coming off, like when we renew with my annual basis.
Yeah.
I've seen, but it could be buried because it's just one property on mine. So I'm gonna have to look through to find out where that's.
Mike, who is the insurer? Do you have those?
Renaissance Alliance Insurance.
Renaissance.
No, I can do that.
Yeah, Kenny is the he's the one that authorizes it, I guess.
Well,
His
he
name.
he would probably just be paying the bill.
Okay,
So someone must be getting it to then process.
and who that someone is, we don't know.
I've not-
Yeah,
Can I ask a question which goes back a bit? I must have missed something. For every dollar we get from the CPC through town meeting, did you say we get?
The state doesn't match.
Right, that's what I was, okay.
so the question I have, and I may just have been confused here. So there's the 10, and then there's a cage match for the remaining 70%, where you have open space and historic renovation and everyone trying to get that pot that
That 70% is basically undesignated.
and designated. So, and that's, you know, again, it's a case, we all fight it out with each other. So the 10% we get, does that I thought that stayed in the CPC and we still had to request a transfer.
No.
How come our budget that's something else to look at?
That's one of the things, so I mean, that's where from an accounting side, I'll have to look. And one of the nice things with Mike and now with Grace is we have some administrative support for CPC to then help get a better understanding of some of these buckets and how we account for it. But we should have basically designated accounts for open space, historic, and affordable housing.
Okay.
So those are things that can separate out.
It goes to town meeting when you want money out of the undesignated fund.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Brian,
What is the total CPC collection that the town has? So I'm just trying to say what's 10% of what? No, not the amount, the annual amount that CPC collects.
I can get that for you because basically we just have the numbers provided for annual town meeting back in May. Because the 10% ends up being, it was like 68,000. So you're talking about 680,000, which was that year's, right.
So it's size.
It's sizable.
Yeah.
70,000 a year,
Yeah.
10%. Okay.
So, and that's been building up over 30 years. Again,
And it-
hasn't been that number because the taxes have gone sky high in recent years, but it's still,
yeah,
so we should have, if we haven't spent it and no one knows. So can I have can I make a request to Joe and Mike and to Brian? Can you guys sort of make Brian the point person on this? You know, copy me, but you know, I don't need to be involved. I'm very glad you took this on. So, you know, you guys have his contact information, right? Is that okay?
yeah. No, I mean, we'll be, because we need to sort of
Yeah.
get speed on exactly where things are for the Affordable Housing Trust as well. So-
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that might be good to discuss at some point, and, you know, the board can, you know, everything I say the board can weigh in on, is that one of the things that we'll be talking about at a later date, not today, because we do have to be out of here, is how we're going to structure affordable housing requirements in the town of Upton. And one of the things we can always do is we can, and Mike's going to talk about this a little bit, but we can require that folks that build more than a certain amount of units in town either build an affordable unit or pay a certain amount into the Affordable Housing Trust. And so if we're going to be requiring, if you're building 6 houses, you have to put $200,000 to $300,000 into the Affordable Housing Trust, we damn well got to have a mechanism that accounts for that and that allows us to spend it. And so, but the big question is what's happened to our 10% ever since? I thought that was being saved by that was in the CPC, but that's automatically given to us. We don't have to go through town meeting for that. We don't have to ask permission from the CPC. It's actually going somewhere in this town. We just don't know where.
That's how it should be working.
Well, except
The only reason why I say should is I have to just take a closer look at the motions and make sure that then as it was set up, that it goes to Affordable Housing Trust. And once it goes to Affordable Housing Trust, town meeting is done. You then have control over
Okay.
that money.
But I didn't see anything in Jessica's ledgers about receipts. I only saw expenditures. So, I don't know.
And
And who's Jessica?
She's the treasurer, collector. Was it Jessica Gomez? Yeah, she's wonderful. She's based in the basement. That's where they keep the money, people, because they don't want them to see them. I keep forgetting these meetings are recorded, so anyways, this is what you guys signed up for. So that's the financial update. Did folks have a chance to look at any of the mission statement and sort of what our roles and responsibilities are? Okay. Joe, if you're leaving, is there anything you wanted to say before you left, or?
No, I was just,
Okay.
I just have to take a call. I'm
Okay.
Paul Flaherty.
Oh, say hi to Paul.
I'll be right back.
Paul is the chair of the finance committee. He's someone that we will work with if we are requesting money from the trust, because the finance committee recommends and doesn't recommend. So, okay. So I don't really, what our job is going to be is to come up with a plan for affordable housing development, to look at what opportunities we have, what we want to do. Do we want to work with developers to develop affordable housing? Do we want to build affordable housing and manage affordable housing? Do we want, how do we want to go about doing this? But the bottom line is, and I'm going to ask Mike to talk about this more, is that, there's a moral imperative to provide affordable housing. And affordable housing is based on a percentage of the median income in Upton, since the median income in Upton is astronomical. I think the last time I checked, a single family, if you were a single person to qualify for affordable housing, your income as a single person had to be about $57,000 a year. Now, where I come from, that's not, I lived in Worcester for a while, and, that's real money. But I think this also, in my opinion, we look at making, affordable housing too, for the folks that, the janitors and those people that, plow the streets and that type of stuff, because a lot of the people that work in Upton are priced out of the market. But that'll be a determination for another day. And some of the other things that, we're looking into.
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Yes.
We don't get to choose what the level of income is that's set by the state, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But we can choose whether or not we want to do affordable, meaning housing for people less than, the median income. If we want to look for, grants or
What's considered to
subsidies
be
or
a poverty level? Do you have any idea?
poverty levels, what, about 25,000 a year?
It probably is I'm looking at the area median income table that's in our housing production plan that CMRPC just put together for us. And these are the most recent numbers. 80% of the area median income for one person is 66,300. That's considered low. Very low is for one person is considered 48,000 about, and extremely low is considered 29,000. And my assumption is that extremely low is considered the poverty level, but I'm not sure that's a formal distinction, poverty level. So.
And then that's for a single person. So if you're dealing with a family, it goes up. So again, when we're talking about, if we want to do, if we don't want to just stick with the legal requirement, if we, which is, 80% of median, right? So 66 a year for a single person, which is a lot of money.
Not these days.
Then, that's something else we can discuss. So yes, we can decide what type of housing we want to build in town.
We'll see, I guess, in half hour, the production plan.
Yeah.
In my, I guess I was naive, thinking that the production plan had a plan at the end of it, and we would be kind of trying to implement the plan, or is that not? I might misunderstand what that is going to be. No, I can wait.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good question. I think a problem that a lot of people have with plans, and then Mike is probably has the accurate answer to this, but is that you do plans and they sit there and do nothing, but they're meant to be a working document.
So, I mean, the housing production plan sets targets and sort of general goals. It has some specific strategic actions, but it doesn't have a lot of very specific strategic actions. There is what's called, obviously, an affordable housing plan, affordable housing trust plan, that I'm sure CMRPC could generate. It exists for a lot of different trusts across the Commonwealth.
CMRPC is Central Mass Regional Planning
Oh, yeah,
Commission,
excuse me, yeah.
and they do a lot of, I worked there briefly,
They're our local metropolitan planning organization, which is
and they provide us with issues.
so they serve Worcester County, essentially, or most of Worcester County. Yeah, so they serve as our consultants for a lot of times for these sorts of things. And so they, as well as any other consultant that you might enlist with this particular help, can help the trust arrive at those very concrete strategies and implementation actions, goals and things like that. That this trust, if you wanted to engage in that, you would then have that plan and start working specifically off that plan and ticking things off. That's an option. It's not a requirement, but it's an option.
Good. So we have a starting.
Yeah.
We have a
pick and
starting
choose
point.
from that.
And something that the Housing Production Plan Steering Committee looked at was, they looked at a lot of things, but they looked at where we wanted to put housing. I mean, one of the conversations going on in the town, and a lot of the stuff that I was explaining to Brian, it's like, it's all separate silos, but it all comes together, is the MBTA communities. It looks more and more like a requirement every day, but which requires multifamily housing allowed in town by right.
Yeah.
And so if we do, and so that was something they looked at with the housing production plan, because if we're dealing with that by right, that might be a good place to put affordable housing.
And actually, that particular issue of the MBTA is more of an issue for us, because if we don't implement it, I think we have a year's grace now with the planning.
We have 2 years left.
We have a 2-year
Is
deferment.
it 2 years?
December of 2025, we have.
Okay. So 2.5 years.
Yeah, and the steps, I mean,
Yeah.
and the town has been really good
But
at,
if we don't implement it, we're going to lose some state funding, aren't we?
well, they're getting meaner.
Well,
They started off with some minor state funding,
I'm
and
not
now
sure if it's
they're,
mean or
and
right.
now they're
It's just-
saying that, because at first, when Charlie Baker announced it, and again, I keep looking at Joe and Mike in case I'm making a mistake here, but it was more of a incentive for folks to
Yeah.
look more at it. And the new attorney general, the new governor said it's a mandate.
Charlie Baker, it was a stick. The incentive was, it was like, well, we're gonna take that funding.
It was two,
And then when it just became a bigger stick.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that may have given you a little headache. Now it's, you got a good shine.
Yeah, well, I think Upton had never gotten, according to what we were told at the time, had never received any of the funds they were taking away. Since then, we have put a MassWorks application in, and since this team came in, we've been applying for these original funds hand over fist. So it would hurt us now, but when this first got mandated, we had never requested any of the funds that they were withholding. So, the planning board was like, we don't care. And then they came back, as Joe said, with a bigger stick, and now they're getting mean about it.
I don't know, I'd call it being mean. That's not the way I see it.
Oh, they are gonna make a case against Holden as.
I know my son
So,
lives in Holden.
they're
I'm
getting-
well aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was the front page of the
Yeah,
blog
it
the other
was.
day. Was how and they're itching for that, because Holden is everything that makes a good political statement. They're a wealthy little suburb,
I just think it's important to actually do it. I mean,
Well-
I don't see it as politics. I see it as people need somewhere to live.
well, again, this is where we're getting into philosophy. We don't have time for philosophy today. So I'm going to turn this over now to Mike, and who can give a more coherent overview of what we're working with here. We talked also about maybe staffing opportunities, and we talked about some possible zoning bylaw changes that we might want to consider for the for the upcoming spring town meeting.
I guess we'll start with,
Would be
subsidized housing inventory, which you'll, probably, if you're not already aware, probably hear a little bit more about in about a half hour. So chapter 40B of Mass General Law requires that municipalities have 10% of their dedicated, of their housing stock as dedicated affordable housing. That's affordable housing is the fire guards we're talking about. The town of Upton currently has 189 units as dedicated affordable. That is approximately a little bit north of 6% of the goal. That leaves us at a deficit of about, I think it's somewhere to like 103, something like that, just north of 100 units that the town would need to get in order to be in compliance with that 10% requirement.
Just to interrupt for a sec, but a nuance which folks may or may not know is when they're talking about the subsidized housing inventory, that's deed restricted housing. So there is housing in Upton Inn, for example, that is relatively affordable to people. That's not part of the SHI because it is not deed restricted.
Yeah.
So that's an important designation to make.
I think the way that the state looks at that is that it could go away easily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and obviously by deed restricting it, it's restricted for a certain amount of years. Some of it is restricted, you know, for a very, very long time. So that's how they control for that. I mean, even, you know, I know a lot of communities over Massachusetts, over New England have argued for, well, you know, mobile homes serve an essential purpose for this sort of thing as well, but that's not considered affordable housing. Again, the state requires that it be deed restricted, and through 40B requirements, they have to obtain an approved funding source for the subsidy that they're obtaining for the construction of those new units. So that's all, you know, the checks and balances that the state ensures on their end.
And until a town reaches its 10%.
Until it's not reaches its 10%, we are subject to the 40B clause, if you want to phrase it like that. Developers have the option to apply through the state to get, or this is currently going on, right? So as we know, there's a property just down the road that just got its project eligibility letter through Mass Housing to state that site that they've selected is an eligible site for the housing that they want to put on that site. And that housing will be, you know, an apartment unit complex with 20 or 25%, I'm forgetting, of 25% of the units as the dedicated affordable housing. And so though that type of development it doesn't have to adhere to local zoning, right? So in our case, in Upton's case specifically, that type of development would not otherwise be permitted in that zone. You know, to split hairs, I think you could probably apply for a special permit through the zoning board in order to get that type of development in that particular location. But generally, under this law, you can bypass local zoning. You don't have to adhere to what the town's local zoning code is in order to receive a project. That's what the project eligibility letter grants developers looking to do these things. And so by obtaining 10% and or meeting periodic goals along the way, the towns can enter into what's referred to as safe harbor status, Whereas towns can, if a developer applies for a 40B project in that time period that the town is within safe harbor, the town has the option to say no, thank you. But you also have the option to say yes, please, because maybe that helps again get the us closer to the 10% or something like that. So
It's only a 2-year safe harbor.
yeah, again, that depends on the what you're meeting along the way. There are certain thresholds and criteria that to be, increasing your affordable housing stock by a certain percentage over a certain amount of time and those sorts of things. And having a approved housing production plan, it's also a requirement, which is why we're going through the process of that now as well. So I mean, it's a very brief overview of 40B.
And 40B just, so the people, and I think everyone understands it. If a developer comes in, they can, and we're 2 houses, if we're not in safe harbor. And if we are 2 houses short of our 10%, they can propose a 300 unit apartment building. They're not restricted by they can propose as many as they want. So what our, I think, immediate goal is, at least what my immediate goal is to get into that safe harbor. The other thing that Mike didn't say is that when they're doing apartment complexes, which is what they're talking about up the street, up Main Street a little bit, you only 25% are considered affordable, that have to be affordable, but the entire, sort of 69 units or 67 units that are proposed, they all count towards our inventory.
Yes.
So we will get,
Even the market rate.
even though they're luxury. They're-
I don't
yeah,
get that at all, but whatever.
yeah, but yeah, it's.
Oh, can you reiterate that,
Maybe.
Kathy? So are you
Um,
saying, can I ask a
So
question?
basically, and I'm going to do it in round numbers because I can't do math. If someone comes in and does 100 unit apartment complex in Upton under 40B, 25% of that has to be affordable. It has to meet the 80% of median household income. The other 75% can be rented out as luxury units, like at full market rate, and but all 100 units will count as affordable when they're adding up our inventory.
Oh,
So it doesn't give us more affordable housing. It just, beefs up our numbers so we don't have to deal with another developer coming in.
It gives you affordable housing as per the SHI list, the subsidized housing.
Yes.
It doesn't give you affordable
Yes.
housing
Yeah.
in the sense of those units are also deeded.
Yeah, so there are 2 goals. One is to, meet our 10% goal, which is what we were just talking about does to keep a developer from coming in and basically telling us what we have to do and building inappropriate houses in inappropriate places. But the other one we want to do, which is why I think we're all here, is to build affordable housing. So there are sort of 2 parallel things going on here. So I'm sorry, Mike, go.
And then I guess I'll move on from 40B just to draw the distinction between 40B and MBTA communities law, because those are very similar, so they're often confused. The MBTA communities requirement, which we were talking about earlier, that is the requirement that the state put forward in the recent zoning law changes that requires MBTA communities, which often is considered a small town adjacent community, meaning we're less than whatever the population threshold is, and we're adjacent to a town that has a T-stop. Grafton and Westboro,
Yeah.
right? And through that law, the town is required to provide a zoning district of good size, I'll just say, that is capable of supporting up to 150 multifamily units. That is not a affordable housing requirement. It's a housing construction requirement, I guess. But it's also not a quota that needs to be filled. It's identifying a district that can support up to 150 apartment multifamily units.
So if the developer comes in and wants to build there, they can do it by right. If they want to build a small apartment building or duplexes or things, they still have to meet height work. They can't come in and put a skyscraper in Upton Center. There's still a restrictions,
And
but they,
by right, meaning essentially, to boil it down, capable of being done through a building permit versus needing to go through zoning board special permit approval and getting special approvals like that. Planning board-
Is Bryn is new land that has to be designated to be able to support denser 150 unit, multi-unit housing?
This,
Or the existing area that already has some of that, that also goes into that 150 unit requirement?
all the above. Yeah, it can be whatever. Upton has a little bit more leeway because we're an adjacent community versus other communities who have T-stops and bus routes.
and we're also rural, which also got our numbers down. Yeah.
They have to locate within a certain distance of those bus routes and T-stops versus we have a little bit more leeway as to where we can locate that. So it can be, it can be on a large property or a large collection of properties as a new zoning district along 140 or elsewhere in town. Or we can look to increase density here, in the center district or in West Upton or in other more densely populated areas. So long as it's feasible.
I have another question in that maybe someone mentioned it and I missed it, but is the state going to be providing any additional assistance for public transport to these T-stops, to the commuter rails? Like, how do they expect people that were to live in somewhere like Upton to get, it's like a 20-minute drive, isn't it? 20-minute drive. So will we have more
Parking lots are
buses?
full.
Huh?
To parking lots that are full by 7:00.
I know, that's why I drive to Cambridge, because I can't drive 20, 30 minutes and it's just ridiculous. I just wonder if the state has any other plans.
That's my knowledge.
You have to join for services with WRTA or somehow to get additional public transportation services.
Which is something we can do, but that's,
Yeah.
something we could do at a,
That's an option to pursue, that the town has always had an option, but I'm not aware of any new funds or help that the state's proposing in order to provide those connections that Gina mentioned.
I think one of the good things is the state is tweaking this as it goes along because it has a lot of flaws in it. And at first it was really draconian. And I think we were going to have to do 50 acres. And then they reduced it to 25 and they reduced the density requirement for towns like Upton. And, what I'm hoping is that when this does move forward, keeps moving forward, they will come up with funding for transportation and funding for, maybe even for planning and designing. It's not in place yet, to the best of my knowledge. So.
Through the chair, moving on, Kathy wanted me to talk a little bit about staffing and staffing options. Obviously, me and Joe are here, so we can help the trust as best we can with the time we have available. I have Grace in my office who, I can enlist time to time to help out with some stuff as well. It was circulated through CMRPC a few months ago or late last year that they had recently brought on a new staff person to serve a whole bunch of communities within the area, specifically helping out with affordable housing as a point person. So that's an option in future fiscal years to pursue as well if this committee finds that we really need a lot more assistance with beyond what maybe Joe and I can provide. But obviously we're here, we'll do the best we can to help out the community.
The other options that we have are that we can use money from our budget once we figure out if we have any money to use to either pay for somebody in town government already to buy their hours. If anybody has any opportunity. I don't know, Denise is pretty booked, Grace is pretty booked, Mike doesn't have a life, you don't have a life. So it's sort of finding somebody that can make meetings at night, but also help keep us on track. So if we have money, that might be something we want to vote on at a different meeting. And the other thing is there are some boards and towns that get a line item approved at town meeting. And, you know, that's something else that we could go for if, you know, if we're struggling to find to find somebody to sort of guide us through this process. And then there's grants. I mean, that was one thing that we talked a little bit about is maybe digging up some grant funding for this type of thing.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye out on grants as well. I'm not aware of anything currently that provides grant assistance for this specifically to provide staffing or anything like that. Certainly we'll keep an eye out on grants that would be helpful for the trust.
Now, is there one for the MBTA communities? Is that something that we?
Yeah, I mean, I was able to get the Mass Community Planning Grant, I think is the name of it. So $30,000 towards obtaining a consultant to provide a feasibility study on what we're talking about earlier, which is called inclusionary zoning, which is the mechanism by which you can require, as what Kathy was talking about, requiring development of, say, 100 new units. You can require them under local zoning to put in, you know, for every 100 units, 10 units of affordable housing, you know, simple round numbers, obviously, to either build in 10 units or more of affordable housing, or in lieu of providing that affordable housing, paying into the trust. So that's another funding mechanism for the trust.
And that's a model that a lot of towns have used. Have direct experience both with Little Compton on that, where then at least then allowed the housing trust to then sort of gather and leverage those funds. One of the things in thinking about staffing also, especially since we're really trying to bring the Affordable Housing Trust sort of back up from ashes. Some of the money that the trust can use can actually be used to retain a consultant to help develop an action plan that then identifies over the next 3 to 5 years what exactly the trust is going to do, how it's going to get there, and identify those resources so that if one of those things was to join in with additional staffing with CMRPC for a circuit rider, affordable housing planner, then that would be something that would be able to help achieve those goals. Some of those may be able to be done with staff. You know, if we want to put out the RFP again for that house, you know, that's something that we're able to do. If there's more monitoring and things that all of a sudden become part of that action plan, you know, then that's when staff is a big option.
I mean, short-term thing. So staffing is something that we'll have better ideas about the budget. I think next time we meet, and we can talk more on staffing and next steps. But the one thing I would like to take a vote on tonight, if folks are up to it, or figure out what the next steps are, is 48 Parker Ave North. I would personally love to get that process up and running again. I don't know if the town is the one that issues the RFP.
That would be. So it can come out of the town manager's office, but also it's something that the Affordable Housing Trust can do. Right now, I don't know anything about what was done in the past. And probably if we developed an RFP, we're going to have a copy. I just need to put my hands on it. And then that may be something for the next meeting, review that, identify how it was done, what the options were. Because if that was just to basically make it available for anyone to purchase and acquire, as long as it's at the end protected by a deed restriction, keeping it affordable, yeah, that would be one thing. If it was something where we were directly partnering with Habitat for Humanity, that may be a different type of contract or process that they chose. I just don't know anything about that yet.
Do we have to sell it when a municipality RFPs it? Do we have to do it as surplus property? Meaning we have to make it available to.
We would have to transfer that. Well, no, the trust already has it.
Okay.
So it's already done. So no, you can do that.
So we could
need to
theoretically
go to
sell it
meeting.
to a developer who could make money and then give the money to the trust to reinvest in other things rather than, because it's about 0.34 acres.
It all depends on on where the numbers
Yeah.
come, because one of the things is very often, at least a developer will look for maybe some sort of contribution.
Yeah.
Either with CPC funds or basically, hey, I'll give you 10,000 for this. Yeah, I know the book value of this is $150,000, but I need that to offset construction costs to make the numbers work.
Or if they could just take it,
Yeah.
like buy it at market rate, and then, they don't have to do deed restricted affordable. They could just give us the money, the trust, the money to reinvest.
That's where it becomes a question of what you really want to do. In my experience with towns on the land, it may be then controlled by the Affordable Housing Trust, and that the unit is the important thing, not on sort of getting the money back, and that the subsidy that essentially the town is doing by basically either giving the price for that land at a reduced cost or basically giving it away to ensure that you can get 1 or 2 units. It could be a duplex with 2 affordable units. But right now, I don't even know what we did back then.
Yeah,
That's
no, I,
research.
and I can't find the RFP. So what I would like to do, if, folks, because we have to adjourn in like 5 minutes, is I would like to get folks to, a volunteer or 2, maybe to, play point on developing an RFP, like what we want to do with it. And I'm willing to, do that. If other people want to do it as well, and then we can present an RFP for discussion at our next meeting. Because Habitat for Humanity has already reached out to Mike about, but I'm not sure how that'll work. So we can just find
Was
that
that
a
recently or?
couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they're still interested, but I don't know how because they do sweat equity. I don't know how their model fits with our model. So it's lots of questions that have to be answered, but I think it'd be a good idea if we start focusing on that and present an RFP, divest that, because we're paying tax, we're paying carrying costs on that. Or the town is, if we're not, the town is picking up the slack. So I think that would be useful. So, I know I told people by our bylaws, we're required to meet quarterly. I would like to have another meeting in about a month, just to go over. I think that'll give you guys, just only because you have a special town meeting coming up in November, you'll have plenty of time on your hands. If you can, maybe get the financial information together, and Brian, if you can quarterback that, and then, we can work together on the RFP, and then we'll have to figure out a way to convince Gina to become clerk, which I think won't be that difficult. I'll send you Paul's minutes. And so now we'll leave, and who wants to leave, and otherwise we'll stay for the next meeting. But we have,
are we going to set a date for the next meeting?
yeah, I was thinking do we want to set a date for it? Do you want to do Thursday? What is it?
What day is it today? It's Tuesday.
A Tuesday, yeah. Tuesdays are great for me, every other Tuesday, because I have planning board, and then I can just come out once and get everything done. But I don't know if that works for other people. Gina, what days are you in Boston? Are you in Boston 5 days a week, or Cambridge?
Yeah, I mean, my schedule is going to change once the kids go back to school, so I won't be having to come in so late. I've been working from home during the day. I got to look at my calendar, though. I just work all my other meetings in Upton. I don't know. I got to see. Usually,
What dates do your school commitments tend to meet?
well, yeah, I still have to set it up for MUF. I have to set it up for the PTO. I have to set it. We're still setting it up, but I mean, Tuesdays, that's pretty good. I think that would work for Maddie as well, actually.
Is 6 o'clock okay for people?
It's good.
Gina, is 6 o'clock okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
What's Monday, Tuesday? Okay. Yeah, that should be okay.
Okay, 6 o'clock okay for you?
Yeah. Should we only make it?
What are they, Tuesdays from now?
4? The 19th?
The 19th, okay. Do we want to do September 19th at 6 o'clock?
Normally it's good, but I won't be around that
Huh?
week. I won't be here that week.
What, the 19th?
The 19th.
Okay.
that week.
Then how about the week after, or 2 weeks,
Yeah, that'll be better for me after. Yeah.
Yeah, why don't-
How can that be a Tuesday? The 16th is a Tuesday.
Wait, which day?
Maybe the 23rd if it's going to be a Tuesday. I
The
don't know.
19th?
I'm not looking at-
September 19th?
Did you say the 19th?
I might not
September
be in town for the
Sorry, I
19th
think it's-
either.
Okay, but we just changed it to 26.
Sorry,
right?
I misheard.
Didn't-
Okay, 26.
The 26th of September
At 6:30.
at 6.
Yeah,
Yeah.
At 6, right?
No, down, it'll be downstairs probably
in the
in the
dungeon.
basement. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Okay.
6. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn the meeting?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Edie?
Aye.
Brian? Gina? Aye. Kathy?
Aye.
Or Maureen? Aye. Kathy? Aye. Okay, yay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.